What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Starting off with defense news, Taiwan's military reported 30 Chinese warplanes operating around the country on Wednesday morning. The Defense Ministry says China was conducting long-range aerial reconnaissance, part of large-scale military exercises. To learn more about the purpose behind these incursions, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Ben Lewis, a defense analyst based in Washington, D.C.
What can you tell us about China's recent military activity around Taiwan?
Generally, I think this is an instance of, the PLA gaining hours of flight for its pilots, gaining practice hours, seeing how Taiwan is going to react, but also it's signaling because, Taiwan is starting its largest ever exercises this month, and so I think the PLA is trying to signal that, you can practice all you want, but we're still going to be here.
Given that there's going to be 5 days worth of live fire exercises, how do you think China's going to react, and do you think we're going to see more of this activity going forward?
Looking at previous instances of when China reacts and does large-scale violations of the ADIZ, I think the exercises definitely count as something that would trigger that. Obviously, it's dependent on weather and other considerations, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if we saw higher levels of activity.
So far this year, in 2023, we've seen more than 900 Chinese military aircraft breach Taiwan's ADIZ. Is this kind of in line with China's strategy to establish a new norm around Taiwan to kind of wear down Taiwan's defenses?
I think this is an attempt by Beijing to create a new status quo for the use of military forces in the region, and I anticipate that this trend of increasing activity relative to previous years and previous months will continue. But I think generally speaking, the best way to counter this kind of activity by the Chinese is to be as transparent as possible. If you have information, share as much information as possible, because Beijing will not share what the PLA is doing. They want it to be radio silence. They want to be able to operate with impunity. I think the best thing Taiwan can do, bar none, is to share as much information as possible so that the world can see that Beijing is attempting to alter the status quo.
That was Ben Lewis, a defense analyst based in Washington, D.C., speaking to our reporter, Jaime Ocon. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department has denied a report saying that the U.S. asked Taiwan to develop biological weapons. This comes after a Taiwanese media outlet said that the U.S. held a secret meeting with Taiwan, telling the country to make bioweapons in the event of a war. Taiwan's defense ministry denied these allegations earlier this week. A spokesperson for the State Department said there is no factual basis to the report. They add that the U.S. was one of the first signatories of the UN Biological Weapons Convention in 1972. North Korea has fired a long-range missile reported by both Japan and South Korea. The missile was launched near Pyongyang Wednesday morning and flew towards the Sea of Japan, also known as the East Sea. The projectile landed around 550 kilometers east of the Korean peninsula. The launch comes after North Korea claimed U.S. reconnaissance planes intruded on its exclusive economic zone. It's Pyongyang's first missile launch since June 15. NATO says Ukraine can only join the alliance when its members agree and all the conditions are met. This year's NATO Summit is being held in Lithuania's capital. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is at that event. Russia invaded his country in February last year. Ukraine cannot join NATO while at war, but it hopes to do so once the fighting ends. But Zelenskyy is angry that his country's application has been put off and slammed the decision as absurd. Another major focus of this year's summit is the strengthening relationship between Russia and China. NATO officials will meet the leaders of South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan on Wednesday. To find out more about the growing relationship between Indo-Pacific nations and NATO, Harel Hughes spoke to Zsuzsa Anna Ferenczi, a EU-Taiwan relations expert here in Taipei.
But what is different about this year's NATO summit?
So this year's NATO summit takes place in a very tense global context. The entire global strategic landscape has shifted both in the Euro-Atlantic region, but also in the Indo-Pacific global dimension. And this comes through the growing strategic alignment between Russia and China. So NATO members have been on high alert, seeing this cooperation between China and Russia, this friendship growing. And this, in fact, poses a global threat to the international order.
We've been seeing a much larger focus on the Indo-Pacific region in all these NATO discussions. So what does that mean for Taiwan in general?
This is an investment in deterrence, and going forward, this will be important. What happens in the Indo-Pacific affects the Euro-Atlantic region, and there is a growing sense of urgency. This helps the countries in the region to protect their interests and to ensure that there is peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, because that is ultimately also the interests of countries in Europe.
That was Harel Hughes speaking with EU-Taiwan relations expert Zsuzsa Anna Ferenczi in Taipei. The vote for Thailand's next prime minister has been thrown up in the air. Local media say the Thai Election Commission will ask to suspend the frontrunner, Pita Limjaroenrat. This comes right before lawmakers are set to pick the country's new leader on Thursday. Joyce Zeng explains how that vote will work.
Thailand. It's the second largest economy in ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. It's also one of the world's most popular vacation spots. And after nearly a decade of junta rule, the country could be entering a new era. The stage is set for a head-to-head battle between military might and a youth-backed democratic voice. And the man most people are hoping will govern the country? A Harvard-educated businessman, the 42-year-old Pita Limjaroenrat became a rising star on the political scene when he was elected to parliament in 2019. He's from a wealthy family with a history of political involvement. And he now leads Move Forward, which positions itself as a reformist party.
And this is Move Forward Party's headquarters. It's a relatively new party. It's only been around since 2020, when its predecessor was controversially dissolved after a constitutional ruling. Now Move Forward has promised to curb the power of the military, the monopoly, and even the monarchy, an ambitious goal here in Thailand.
Pita has also said he's taken policy inspiration from Taiwan. Responding to a question from TaiwanPlus, Pita said there were many things, from business to social issues, that Thailand could learn from Taiwan.
I had a chance to speak to Mr. Maurice Chan from TSMC, and that's about the ship industry. So a couple of things that I think we can work together, especially and tourism as well. So I think a couple of things that we can work forward together.
Pita also hopes to legalize same-sex marriage here as well. These goals have clearly resonated with many Thai people. Back in May, Move Forward defied expectations and became the general election's biggest winner.
What he's trying to do is unprecedented. Their life mission is to decentralize power or to go up against the big monopolies and oligopolies of Thailand. That is a lifetime of political work.
On top of that, Move Forward also aims to expand Thailand's role internationally.
They want to increase the roles of Thailand in ASEAN. Policy toward Myanmar is going to be changed. Policy toward Ukraine and Russia's conflict might be changed also.
Pita is running for prime minister without an opponent. But that doesn't mean he'll get the job. Why? To secure the role, Pita needs a majority vote from parliament, which is made up of two houses, a lower house of 500 elected MPs and an upper house of 250 junta-appointed senators. That makes 376 the magic number. Pita is going in with 151 seats under his belt, thanks to his party's general election win. But that's very much short of the target. And that's why he's worked hard to form this 8-party coalition. Together, they have 312 seats, closer, but still not quite there.
The big question now is, how will the conservative-leaning senators vote? Well, in less than 24 hours, we'll find out here at Parliament Complex whether Pita can win them over the way that he's won over many of the Thai people. Alex Chen and Joyce Dunn in Bangkok, Thailand for TaiwanPlus.
Back in Taiwan, student activists for the main opposition party are working to drum up support from younger voters. Polls have consistently shown the Kuomintang's candidate, Ho Yo-ii, trailing in third place in the country's presidential race. His support among young people is particularly low. But on Wednesday, members of the party's youth corps set out their reasons for backing Ho. They're hoping to discourage younger voters from supporting third-party challenger Ko Wen-je or ruling party candidate Vice President Lai Ching-te.
我们一起站出来，团结全台湾的青年， 一起来号召全台湾青年共同团结努力，替侯友宜市长打拼。
Women's rights activists here in Taiwan are calling for better legal protection against sexual harassment. Taiwan's legislature is set to review the country's gender equality laws in the wake of a Me Too movement. A group of city councilors says changes to the law should strip those found guilty of sexual harassment of any government awards or funding. And a women's rights group says current sexual harassment legislation, which is split over 3 different laws, does not adequately protect victims.
他会说。 我就是想要告那个行为人，可是，在现行的法律系统里面，他没有办法按照性骚扰防治法去提出申诉，就因为我们大家都在做切割。
Police say a fire at a university lab helped them bust 3 suspected drug factories, and they say they've caught the ringleader. Officers arrested a 48-year-old biotech entrepreneur named Zhang in May. They say he rented space in Taipei's Datong University under the pretense of researching new medicine. When a fire broke out in the lab last year, investigators found over 5 kilograms of illegal drugs, including ketamine. Police say they then tracked down Zhang's assistants at 2 other sites. A professor from Datong University says he did not notice anything unusual about Zhang's lab.
学校会定期跟不定期会到他们的实验室去访视，都没有闻到一些比较刺鼻、比较特殊的味道。哦，那他也告诉我们说，他们只是一个基础药品的一个研发。哦，所以我们就没有特别去。 就没看到这样的问题。
Taiwan's National Center for Traditional Arts is launching 6 experimental pieces that look back at the history of performing arts in the country. Yu Jing Huang reports.
A song interrupted, much like traditional performing arts hitting obstacles in a contemporary world. It's one of the 6 pieces for Taiwan's National Center for Traditional Arts Keep on Dreaming project, which challenges artists to refresh old art forms with new elements.
其实戏曲在过去的100年来讲的，放在台湾的脉络当中，其实是一个非常非常深刻，跟整个社会、观众、人民其实是完全紧密绑在一起的状态哦。那这次非常非常有趣的是，我们看到每一出戏的时候，你就会发现，哎，这个戏好像处理的历史我们好像都似曾相识，可是透过戏的演出当中以后，你会发现，哎，这个戏又不太一样。
Troops from several fields, including puppetry, took on the challenge. This play, Dream of Becoming, offers the audience a rare glimpse into lesser-known history, about puppetry adopting foreign elements under Japan's assimilation policies in 1930s Taiwan. Because of these adaptations, the art form survived colonialism.
So I want the people to see, even with all the political reason, world history reason, but the puppet art still remains.
The experimental project also presents challenges to performers, as they have to learn skills outside of their discipline. This piece tells the story of when Beijing opera struggled in the 1950s, between needing to be patriotic and competition from other art forms. These 2 actors portray Beijing opera performers from that time who have to learn other art forms to make a living. It's a show, but to these actors, the difficulties are real.
我们是京剧演员，可是我们在这出戏里面要全程讲台语，然后还要唱歌仔戏，这是对我们最大的挑战。
The curators said these 6 troops happened to pick different time periods that piece together the past 100 years. Whichever piece of history they brought to the stage, it all helped in shaping a new artistic landscape. Kamashi and Yu Jinghua for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with images of a giant Lionel Messi mural being created in Miami, Florida. I'm Eric Gao. Take care and see you next time. I'm Eric Gao in Tokyo, and you're watching TaiwanPlus News, the voice of freedom in Asia.